Hello and welcome to the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce Mayoral Preliminary Debate. My name is Steve Messineo and I'm President and CEO of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we are pleased to bring this evening's debate to you. Our chamber is a proud member of both businesses and the residents, proud supporter of both businesses and residents in Marlborough, and we appreciate the opportunity to host this debate. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the City of Marlborough, the District Education Center, WMCT-TV, our moderator, timekeeper, and panelists for their efforts in bringing you this debate tonight. And thank you most of all to the candidates who have put in the effort into running for a chance to serve as your next mayor of the City of Marlborough. I'd also like to take a moment to share a few upcoming events the Chamber is running to support businesses and residents in our community. These include our ongoing restaurant sweepstakes that brings recognition to area restaurants and will raise money for scholarships for local high school students. Our recycling event with the Marlborough Rotary, Saturday, September 30th at the Naven Rink, and our Oktoberfest event on Saturday, October 21st at the Solomon Pond Mall, which will be open to Marlborough residents and anybody else who wants to attend. Please visit our website at www.marlboroughchamber.org/events to learn more about our events and register if you'd like. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our timekeeper and Government Affairs Chair, Emily Greenwood, President at AKG Networking. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you to WMCT-TV for broadcasting this event. The City of Marlborough and the District Education Center, they've always been great in providing venues for us. Thank you to the candidates and thank you to the panelists. The Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce, through its government affairs, hosts these debates to help residents make an informed choice. Tonight's forum is being streamed and recorded live via WMCT-TV and will be available on demand. Our moderator for this evening's event will be Darlene Welch of Minuteman Press. Darlene has been a business owner in Marlborough since 2011. She is a member of the Board of Directors of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and the Massachusetts State 4-H as horse communication coach for 15 years, helping students become national champions in 2012, 2019, and 2022. Please welcome our moderator to introduce our candidates, our panelists, explain the rules, and begin our debate, Darlene Welch. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I would like to start by introducing the candidates and the panelists for this evening's event. First, the panelists in alphabetical order. We have Robert Gustafson from Triton Financial, Luis Tomez from Modular Cleaning, and Anna Varela from Serapi Restaurant. These are all three business owners in the City of Marlborough and members of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. Next, our candidates participating in the debate, also in alphabetical order. Please note, political affiliations do not matter in a municipal election. Because the question has been asked when the Chamber reached out for questions, we are introducing the candidates with their political affiliations. We have Michael Baker. He is a resident and an independent. Next, we have Christian Dumais, who is a Ward 3 councilor, also an independent. We have Patrick Hogan. He is a detective in the Marlborough Police Department and an independent. And lastly, we have Samantha Perlman, at-large councilor and a Democrat. For the purpose of this debate, I will address all of you by your first name. Before we begin, I'd like to go over the format for this debate. First, members of the audience. You are only allowed to clap when a candidate has finished their introduction and at the end when they have completed their closing statements. All other times, I ask you to be courteous and remain silent. Candidates, you will each have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. The first round, you will each be asked questions by the panelists. You will have 1 minute for your response, 30 seconds for a rebuttal, and for the second round, each candidate will choose another candidate to ask a respectful question. Again, 1 minute for response and 30 seconds for rebuttal. If there is time after this segment, we will go back to the panel for additional questions. At the conclusion of the debate, all candidates will have 2 minutes for their closing statements, which will be in reverse alphabetical order. Everybody will get a chance to go first. I ask each of you to be concise with your answers and respectful of your time and each other. So I'd like to begin with Michael, your introduction.
Thank you. I'm Mike Baker, resident. I grew up on Howland Street in Marlborough. I live on Gibbon Street in Marlborough, a couple of blocks away. I love the city, my beautiful wife, my 2 kids, Sophia and Jacob. I'm running because there's a big portion of this city that feel forgotten about, unheard, not listened to. And I think a mayor should be a representative of the people. My agenda is not my agenda. My agenda is the people's agenda. What do the people of Marlborough want? Obviously, I will be a CEO, figurehead, and do what the people want. And that's it.
Thank you. Next, Christian.
Thank you, Darlene. Good evening. My name is Christian Dumas, and I'm running to be your next mayor. I would first like to thank the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and WMCT-TV for making this debate possible. Tonight, you'll hear from 4 very different candidates. While all 4 of us are lifelong residents and attended Marlborough Public Schools, you'll see tonight what sets us apart is our experience. For the past 13 years, I have been a small business owner here in downtown. For the past 6 years, I've had the privilege of representing the residents of Ward 3 on the Marlborough City Council. I spent 2 of these years as a member of the West Side Fire Station Committee. I'm the only candidate in this race who has created jobs, managed a budget, recruited and retained employees, and built a small business from the ground up. As the longest-serving city councilor in this race, I passed 6 city budgets, voted to keep taxes low for our residents 6 years in a row, and negotiated several economic development deals resulting in hundreds of millions of dollars in new growth for this city. As a member of the West Side Fire Station Subcommittee, I studied everything from response times to potential locations. In that time, I positioned us well by allocating $7 million for construction and land acquisition for the station. My knowledge and experience from sitting on this committee makes me the only candidate in this race who is ready to get the project done. On March 30th of this year, I was the first candidate to announce for mayor of Marlborough. I mention this because I did not run in response to the mayor retiring. I believe that when I believe now, that mayor needs a new generation of leadership that has the experience to steer us into the future. Over the duration of my campaign, I have met with MWRTA, Marlborough Hospital, the Community Cupboard, and the Boys and Girls Club, and many other community stakeholders. I am ready to be mayor on day 1 and look forward to sharing my plans with you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Patrick?
As the experienced guy in the crew, I need my reading glasses. Good evening. My name is Patrick Hogan. I'm honored to stand before you today as a candidate for mayor. Marlborough is not just a city to me, it's my hometown. Marlborough's my roots. I was born here, I was raised here, in the very same house where my mother grew up. I've watched Marlborough evolve, face its challenges, embrace its opportunities. My ties to this community run deep. I'm committed to its betterment in every way possible. I'm not just a candidate, I'm a family man, I'm a homeowner. I live a stone's throw from this very building that we're sitting in right now. My wife and family, they share my dedication to this community. We're committed to its future. I understand the concerns of families, aspirations of our youth, the dreams of our seniors. I see it every day on the streets as a police detective. I've worked these streets for decades. My vision for Marlborough is one that leaves no one behind, where every resident has the opportunity to thrive. I've spent my entire career working to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents. The issues that impact our community up close, I've seen them up close and personal. I witnessed the strength and resilience of our people. I believe in Marlborough's potential. As I'm approaching retirement from my career as a detective this January, I'm eager to transition into a new role, one where I can continue to serve the city I love, one that's given so much to me. Together, let's work to build a brighter future for Marlborough. Together, we succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Samantha?
Hello, Marlborough residents. My name is Samantha Perlman. I'm one of your at-large city councilors, and I'm running to be our next mayor. I want to thank the Regional Chamber of Commerce for facilitating tonight's debate and our local TV station for broadcasting it live. Marlborough is an incredible community, and I am proud to be a product of it. I'm a lifelong resident and graduate of the Marlborough Public School System. As a candidate for mayor, I offer the most varied and comprehensive experience to serve as our next mayor. I have spent my tenure as a citywide councilor listening to and advocating for residents across our entire city. Twice, you elected me as your city councilor at large, and being elected with the most votes has been humbling and rewarding, so thank you. My professional background is in the nonprofit sector and civic engagement and voting, where I help pass the state law on civics in all schools. This fall, I will complete my law degree at Boston College Law School, and I'm also studying urban planning and environmental policy. This training provides me with unique skills to navigate the challenges facing Marlborough right now. My 2 terms have taught me just as much as my degrees. Here, I listen to people from every ward in the city. Serving on the Finance Committee throughout my council tenure, I have shaped our budget process firsthand. I have built strong partnerships with our state and federal legislators. With over 40,000 residents, over 22 square miles, and a $189 million budget, we need a leader who understands the challenges our city is facing and puts residents first. Having experience in all levels of government, nonprofit, law, urban planning, environmental policy, and my deep resident engagement sets me apart from my colleagues here tonight. I'm committed to making government accessible and transparent, and I've knocked on thousands of doors since 2019 to hear your concerns and ideas. Whether it's making it affordable for families and seniors in our city, strengthening our schools, investing in infrastructure, addressing the rate of development, revitalizing our downtown, I am your trusted partner in City Hall. With these experiences, I am ready to start as your mayor on day 1. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Okay, we are ready to start the questions. We're going to again go in alphabetical order. I'm so sorry. It's easier for me, us that are a little older.
Here we go. All right, folks. Mike, the first question's for you.
Easy, Bob.
To our knowledge, you have not been active in local government, and the question that we have is why now and why mayor?
Well, as I said in my opening statement, the people need a voice. The people need to be heard from. I mean, I went down to the hills, and no one else has been there. Why? I've been down to the Moose, the AmVets, the Eagles, places that people haven't been to, and those people are the ones that said, we call for the mayor, we call, and we don't hear anything. And they need a voice. I'm one of them. And I can help them. Not as a city councilor. We all saw Back to the Future. It's Mayor Goldie Wilson. I'm going to be mayor. So that's what I want to do.
Thank you. The next question we have is for Christian. Christian, you've been a sitting councilor now for 6 years. What orders have you initiated to move an issue forward?
Thanks, Bob. I think that's a great question. My focus in the last 6 years is obviously Ward 3 focus. Ward 3 is the most development parcel of land because there's a lot of green space that could be developed on. So my priority is to make sure after the Apex was built that we did not have more development to disrupt Glen Street area. It's an area that went through a lot of transition during my tenure, and I was adamant about working with developers behind the scene to make sure that projects were not a great fit, but also advocating for the fire station. I'd be missed if I didn't say that opportunity. We allocated $7 million for the project. I've been a fighter and advocate for the West Side Fire Station. It needs to happen, and I look forward to making that happen once elected as mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening, all, and thank you very much for being here and for your willingness to serve. My question is for Samantha, but before that, I just want a disclosure that as a businessman here, I have Christian's business as my customer. It has no bearings on anything, but I just would like to make that statement and be transparent. Samantha, you were endorsed by the Environmental League of Massachusetts. What orders have you initiated to earn that endorsement?
Thank you so much for the question. Certainly, as a city councilor, climate resiliency and our environmental crisis are of the utmost concern. With the flooding that we've seen recently and all of the shifts in our environmental patterns, it is really important that we move on this issue. One of the things I'm really proud to have done as a city councilor was securing additional funding to support the allocation of the O'Donnell property as part of the Callahan State Park expansion in our city. It was really important as a counselor. I voted for that, and we were able to secure funding from the Sudbury Valley trustees and our state to make that possible. So open space conservation is incredibly important, and certainly working to pursue other avenues to whether it's composting in our schools, all of these priorities around the EV stations at the development that we've been advocating for, and the climate resiliency of the building is also very important for the building stock. So all of those things matter, and our environmental crisis really is part of every single issue, and certainly I hope all the candidates here feel the same.
Thank you.
Our next question is for Patrick. Patrick, you have been on the police department for 33 years. You have been endorsed by the Police Patrol Officers Association and the Police Command Officers Union. What role have you played in the department to earn those endorsements?
I've been a union president for the better part of my career. So I've served pretty much everybody that's been in that department for the last 30 years in one way or another, through negotiating contracts, through labor disputes, through unfair labor practices, grievances, you name it. I've been an advocate for my guys for 25 years. And outside those walls, I've done a lot for the police department in the sense of starting the Kirby Road Race, which has given money back to the community for 17 years, thousands and thousands of dollars to cancer research. And I've also done the block party, which will be coming up soon, but that money's been donated to Kathy Winchester for cancer, to the K-9 program. So there's a lot of things that I've done for those guys over the years.
Thank you. We're open to the open questions.
All right. So, a couple of Marlborough hotels are offering shelter to a large influx of immigrant families from countries in turmoil. What are your plans to help these families while ensuring we have appropriate resources in the city and the schools to support the families?
So,
Stephen,
to me
start
first?
with you, and each one of you could answer that question.
Sure. So I wanted to state that there was a protest group that happened outside of these hotels, and that hate group is not reflective of Marlborough. I think that should be clearly stated. That's not the Marlborough that I grew up with. I am proud to say that how Marlborough stepped up as a community to support these families. There's 90 families and about 40 in our students. I've met with the superintendent, with the mayor, to how we can actually appropriate support for them. But we have to be real, and we have to keep notifying the state that we need support here, that our tax dollars, our meals tax, and our whole taxes are not being reflected for our free cash. So I'll make sure that we actually adequate the correct support, but also make sure that the state has a plan regarding our operations. This is beyond the city level. There's 90 communities that have the same problem, and we need to make sure that the state is on point with a plan, because it's interrupting our infrastructure, and we need that to stop, but also adequate the support. Thank you.
Patrick, could you answer that question?
First, I'd like to start by saying that a lot of people say that this is happening elsewhere as well. I don't think anybody who's watching tonight cares about what's happening elsewhere. I think we're concerned about Marlborough. I've actually been to the hotel. I've met with the leaders out there. I met with the immigrants. I realized that most of them speak Portuguese. I had that in common with them. So I was able to communicate with them. I think the most important thing that they need is, as adults, we need to get them to be able to get into the workforce. The fact that they speak Portuguese will make that transition much easier. Here in Marlborough, we have a large Portuguese-speaking community. The kids, obviously, they're getting bused to the Kane School. We're going to need some financial reimbursement from the state and from the federal government, but now that it's been declared a state of emergency, I'm assuming we're going to get some of that. I would continue to follow the current administration's lead on that.
Thank you. Samantha?
Similar to my colleague, I want to denounce the hate that happened outside one of the hotels, and we really want to consider these individuals part of our community. They are our residents now, and certainly it's important that we interact with our state and federal leaders, something that I have the experience in, to get additional funding to support, whether it's the hotel taxes that we would need, additionally about the work authorization. When I visited the Holiday Inn and spoke with the services on the ground there, Elliott Services, as well as some of the community members, what I heard the most was people having access to transportation, right? Where they're located is very difficult to be able to go different places, and we've seen people walking. So certainly it's important that we address that situation authorization. When people have work authorization, we have a lot of jobs here in the city of Marlborough, and folks are really excited and willing to work. And certainly with our school district, we were fortunate to receive state funding to help acclimate with the additional classroom that was over at Kane School, and we need to continue that type of partnership with our leadership. And certainly I've been really impressed with the outpouring of support from the community. We did our own organization of supplies myself for the schools so that families have that when they register, and that's the kind of support that reflects our entire community.
Thank you. And Michael?
I think we're all sympathetic, especially to the children, but my first worry would be the taxpayers of Marlborough. Average stay for one of these families is 14 months. The state has a deal with these hotels for up to 9 years. If it starts at the Holiday Inn, now it's at a second hotel, where does it end? We've all seen what happened in New York. It's a crisis. What's the plan on the state level? What's the plan on a federal level? And I would push the state to say, we can only take so much. After that, it's a real crisis for Marlborough. It already is, I believe, and it's a real problem. So I think we need to push the state and say, we can have up to a certain number, and then that's it.
Thank you. Okay, Anna, would you like to ask the next question to the candidates?
Several of you have mentioned downtown revitalization as part of your platform. Can you speak to the zoning proposal for downtown currently in front of the City Council, which was reviewed Monday night?
Is that to me first?
Go ahead, yes.
Actually, I went and met with the Hudson Business Association and the bid over there, the Business Improvement District, to see how they did it, so we could kind of take what they did, because they're very successful downtown Hudson, and I wanted to basically bring that to Marlborough. The way we have it set up in Marlborough, the MEDC and the Chamber of Commerce could basically function the same way as the bid in Hudson. I think the current zoning proposal that's happening downtown, and for downtown, is going to handcuff business downtown. I don't think that's a smart move. I think requiring 20% of parking on site is an impossibility, and it's just going to handcuff bringing business to the downtown area.
Okay, Samantha?
I really appreciate this question because since knocking doors in 2019, this comes up, why aren't we Hudson? People are really concerned about our downtown, and I'm the only candidate who's started to work on that specifically. As a city councilor, I put forth an ordinance several years ago to have public art in our downtown district, really to make it more walkable, the accessibility, and that's something that now we've seen our mayor move forward on with the mayor's mural project. So the importance of kind of activating the area with supporting the small businesses. We have a great toolbox program through the MEDC, and how can we continue to do things like that, whether it's Lost Shoe and Dancing Orchids that are downtown, and really drive traffic to that area, making it more walkable, whether it needs to be a one-way street or open to pedestrians on Sunday. All of those possibilities are really important. And certainly as a city councilor at Monday's meeting, I really appreciate the feedback that we receive from the business community and look forward to engaging the public in this conversation moving forward so that we can make sure it's affordable to live in the downtown and that we have the transportation access, whether that's parking or the direct engagement so people can walk to their places of work. So all of these things are really important to making sure that the downtown is both accessible and vibrant.
Thank you. And Michael?
We need to modernize. Massachusetts, not just Marlborough, but Massachusetts. I mean, we can all remember, well, some of us can remember, you used to have to go to New Hampshire to buy beer on Sunday. You couldn't get a tattoo in the state. Hudson has a micro creamery. They got a bagel shop. They got a tattoo parlor. We can bring those shops to Marlborough, get some young people in here, and make it more vibrant. And then, once the young people start coming, everybody starts coming.
Okay, thank you very much. Louise?
Can I answer that question?
No.
No, it's okay. So being a small business owner downtown and growing up in downtown, I've seen a lot of changes with the downtown, being a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Main Street equals small business. They go hand in hand. Regarding the zoning, we need to review and update the zoning, but there's also 4 other critical components that we need to do to incorporate the zoning. That's create a working group where people of like-minded can come to the table and discuss that. We also need to work with property owners and attract anchor stores. We need to have more pedestrian-friendly walkway and have the possibility of Main Street being a one-way. And we can't talk about Main Street without bringing in the Walker Building. It's a beautiful building. It's being underutilized. We had the study regarding what it can maintain. We have that report. The library is now moving out of that location, so now we can access that more. I think Urban Affairs is doing a fantastic job with the zoning, but we as business owners need to have more of an input and take it to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Luis?
Yes. So very in line with the previous question, how do you plan to maintain that business-friendly climate for the city? Samantha?
Well, we are very fortunate here in the city of Marlborough to be very friendly to business of all sizes. And as a city councilor and member of the finance committee, I've seen that firsthand. You know, since launching this campaign as well, I've met separately with MEDC and the Regional Chamber of Commerce to really understand what business owners currently in the city are doing and what they really need from the city. A lot of it is about the bureaucracy in government, how difficult it is to get building permits or navigate some of those hurdles, whether it's financial or how to get more foot traffic. Certainly, the pandemic showed us how important our small businesses are and our large businesses. We're fortunate to be a biotech hub here in the city of Marlborough, and I see that continuing. Marlborough sells itself. We are at the intersection of two major highways, and people want to come work here. And so I think that messaging needs to be broader and show folks that, you know, it's great what's going on in the Cambridge and Boston area, but Marlborough is a place to live, work, and play. And certainly that is the mentality that we want to put out on the market as we're showing that Marlborough is the place. And I've been really proud of the work of the Chamber and MEDC in leading the way with the City Council and the Mayor.
Thank you. Michael?
Can you repeat the question?
Of course.
Thank you.
How do you plan to maintain the business-friendly climate that we currently have in Marlborough?
A sense of community. Growing up in Marlborough, I remember going down to the House of Pizza. Key, Steve, they knew everybody in there. You went down to Delaney's. He told you, you know, public library's up the street. Quit reading my magazines. We need more people for the Chamber of Commerce. Join the Chamber of Commerce. Let's get everybody together, get all the businesses together and make Marlborough a destination.
All right, thank you. Christian?
Thank you, and thank you for the questions. Being a part of the Chamber since 2010 when business opened, you see the growth with the Chamber and how welcoming and inviting the Chamber can be. We need to cultivate that relationships along with MEDC. I think our city website needs a complete overhaul where there's access to information on how to get that information to start a small business. We have a great toolbox program with MEDC. I encourage that program for a small business who wants to start up. The City Council and I was happy to fund that and continue to fund that year after year. But also in even the sheds downtown, it's a great little stepping stone for a small business to actually start in trial and error regarding what it takes to run a small business. I think when I opened my business in 2010, it was extremely difficult. It was a lot of late nights and a lot of almost tears when it comes to what it takes to, so making that connection with the Chamber, and actually when you have perception, you have reality, is two very different things. So creating that network of support is critical, and then we can expand by downtown business, by having those small businesses and create the tax rate. Thank you.
Patrick?
First, I would like to say that I think it's important to know what business it wants, to maintain a good relationship with the current businesses in town. For example, what happened with Boston Scientific recently, where the city council undercut their deal. Nobody had any foresight to know that that land was valuable, or if we're really serious about climate and environmental stuff, why didn't anybody know that was environmentally important down there? Waited till the last minute, undercut our biggest employer in town, and no one reached out. No one reached out the next day to mitigate that. And now we have a very upset Boston Scientific, and they can build on that land by right and maybe put up a manufacturing plant where we have no say. So I think being ahead of the curve, understanding business, understanding what they need, understanding what's important to them, and actually reaching out to business before we just undercut them at a city council meeting is probably very important to keeping a business-friendly climate in the city of Marlborough.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next question. As mayor, you'll be managing a nearly $200 million budget, 1,300 employees, negotiating with 14 different unions, overseeing over 24 departments and attending the needs of about 43,000 residents. What type of managerial or leadership experience do you bring to the table?
Start with Patrick.
Is that me? Well, as a union president, I've negotiated 6 contracts throughout the course of my career. I've dealt with the mayor. I've dealt with Myrick O'Connell, who handles all the labor relations through the city. I think I have a very good relationship with all department heads. Some of them have been lifelong friends. I've reached out to everybody recently as this campaign has been going on, and talking to people, the teachers included. I think my managerial style would be similar to what my managerial style is with my union, and you can tell by the endorsements I've received that everybody likes the way that I handle that business, and that would just continue right through to the city.
Samantha?
Thank you so much. Certainly being the CEO as mayor of this city is an incredibly important responsibility. The amount of work I've been doing engaging residents has been really informing my perspective on this issue. Working in the nonprofit sector at a national level, I was responsible for grant writing, large budgets as part of our nonprofit work, and certainly being able to manage the grants. We've done some national work in the voting space. And being a member of the finance committee and gone through 4 budgets myself, that really allowed me to see how we prioritize our resources and what the projection is in the future. So those have been really important leadership experiences, passing state legislation, and certainly my background becoming an attorney in the next couple of months has been really important, having that legal perspective. I've also helped form a union myself in the nonprofit sector, knowing what it's like when people do collective bargaining, and I've already met with many of the unions, fire and police, the head of the teachers union, and have engaged with all of the department heads. And I think it's really important to know, because there are so many contracts moving forward, that we understand the issues firsthand and get ready to start on day one.
Thank you. Michael?
We won't need the cards for this one. Managerial experience, I have 0. But I believe a great leader is a listener first, and most importantly, so I would listen to what the people want. I will hire the right people to advise me, and I'm passionate about Marlborough, and I will do the right thing by Marlborough and its people.
Thank you. And Christian?
Thank you. As in my opening, I am the only business owner on this panel. I have created jobs, I have managed a budget, and I've recruited and retained employees. Granted, it's on a smaller scale, but those skills are transferable. I'm fiscally conservative. I have to watch the bottom line, not only for my clients, but also for my staff, so they can go home and pay their bills. That's important. It needs to continue. Our current mayor is a small business owner. There was a previous mayor who was a barber, and you need to keep a small business in the mayor's office. It's the only way to be effective. It's the only way to keep a AAA bond rating and to keep that tax rate low. If the budget is out of control, then the taxes will go up, and that directly affects your bottom line. There needs to stay a small business in the 4th floor.
Okay, thank you.
What are your plans to address existing infrastructure needs such as roadways and aging underground utilities?
Christian?
Oh, that is me. Thank you. There's no question that our roads are in disrepair. We've heard that, and it's not a surprise to anyone. I live, I work, and I dine in Marlborough. I'm on the roads all the time, and they're unacceptable. I have a plan to fix that. I don't think anyone here has an actual plan. They just say that the roads need to be fixed. We bond or loan out our water and sewer projects. We need to piggyback on those bonds and increase the bond amount so we can actually focus on the road repair. If the infrastructure regarding our water and sewer is not done, then our roads will not be paved correctly. For an example, on Glen Street that happened back in June, we actually had a huge water main break, and it took up till September to fix that. The infrastructure needs to take place, and when we bond that out, then we can actually pay for other roads to fix those at a much faster rate. That has to happen, and we need to assess the conditions of the roads citywide. Thank you.
Patrick?
Actually, I met with the street department. The DPW is shorthanded. So they had 29 guys, well, probably 15 years ago. They're down to 11. So they're overworked, they're underpaid, and they're out there trying to keep up with all this heavy equipment that's driving around town because of the gas lines that are being replaced, the water lines being replaced. We have a lot of heavy trucks out there ripping up our roads. Our own DPW is shorthanded, and they just can't keep up. My plan would be to bring this DPW back up to the levels where they're able to handle these things.
Thank you. Samantha?
Certainly, the staffing that was just mentioned is a really big priority so that we have the capacity to really invest in our roads. In addition to some of the work I've done going door to door, I've been walking the streets and seeing it firsthand and listening to residents, whether it's the Route 20 construction, which is a state road, and people's concerns around that, or things around some of the challenges with the flooding that's been happening around, particularly in the Ward 6 area near the reservoir. Been listening to those concerns directly, and we need to allocate that funding. We have the capital investments every single year, but it's not been a transparent process about how streets are put on that list and how they get redone. So really understanding what the demand is across the city and doing that upkeep so that we don't get to a place where the streets are already in such a bad array that we're not able to, save and conserve the dollars. And then certainly on the state and federal front, we need to aggressively pursue more funding. This is where those individuals and the work of the mayor currently of getting the Lincoln Street grant, the thing on Cedar Hill, all of those money that comes directly into our city improves our entire infrastructure and helps support a low tax rate for our residents.
And Michael?
Let's do a study, find the roads that are in the worst shape, start paving them correctly, and we hear as residents a lot, well, that's a state road. There's nothing that we can do. Well, then let's get the state to fix those roads. Let's make demands from the governor. Let's call her every day and say, we need these roads fixed. Route 20 is an abomination. There's a tire, thank God there's a tire place right there because the potholes pull right into Town Fair Tire. It's great for that business, but let's pressure the state, and I think I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, we have.
All right. We've already talked about the problems immigration has caused thus far. And the question here is, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is in the midst of a housing crisis. How do you plan to address the increasing need and demand for housing and its impact on schools, infrastructure, and traffic?
Michael, we'll start with you.
Okay. Let's slow it down. Marlborough is already growing at an extreme rate. We have apartments already going up. There's plans for more apartments. Let's stop the building of more apartments or the approval of new projects until we can make sure that we have the police, the firemen, the school space, the DPW workers. More people means more problems. We have 5 officers on in a shift for a city this big, and that's growing. I think for now, we have enough apartments. Let's make sure we're prepared, and then we can move forward with the apartments.
Thank you. Christian?
Thank you. Growth is needed to keep a low tax rate. However, we need concentrated growth. We hit a wall when it comes to large-scale residential projects like the Green District. My focus will be owner-occupied condos, such as the Jefferson Project, where it's smaller contained units, where it's minimal impact on the community, but also accessory dwelling for in-law apartments, so that way our seniors can actually stay with their families so they're not moving out of Marlborough. We also need to focus on senior housing, such as the IC School, or Hildreth or Walker Building, and think of creative ways with existing parcels. But we also need to focus on economic development, because that's the key here. And that would be focusing on Moderna, who invested $400 million into the community, which has very little impact on the community, such as schools and hospitals. That keeps our tax rate low. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick?
We're a MBTA adjacent community, so because of that, we're beholden to the Housing Choice Bill. So there's a zoning proposal now from the current administration that would bring us into compliance with that bill. If we don't do that, then the 1,600 by right units that could be built in the city. But my 2 opponents haven't taken any action on that in 6 months. But if that gets done, then we can stop the large-scale building and we can focus on smaller stuff. But as it stands right now, we got 1,600 units that can continue to be built. So there's nothing that you can do as a mayor unless we can get that zoning thing passed that's currently waiting for somebody to do something about it.
Samantha?
It is obvious that housing is a crisis in our entire state, and here at the local level, there are a lot of things that we can do. First of all, the development that's currently happening is really lopsided. You see it in weird places. I know people have been very upset with the density and the speed in which it's happening. Certainly having a city planner, which is something I'm proposing, is really necessary. And with my urban planning background, understanding and data-driven where some of the demand is and how many residents are rent burdened, meaning that they spend more than a third of their income on rent. Being a young professional myself, I'm the target audience of a lot of these development projects, and I would not live in them the way that they currently are. They're not expensive and they're not affordable to folks. And on the point of senior housing, we certainly need that. Having talked to the Senior Tenant Association and been in touch and visited the properties firsthand, a new property hasn't been built for senior housing since the 1980s, to my understanding. So we need to be investing in people so it's affordable to stay in our community, so folks who grew up here or who have lived here their whole lives can afford to remain in our community because they are vital to the city's future, and we need to talk about that. So ADUs being on the table for that accessory dwelling units, having the city planner, and certainly having diverse housing stock.
Are we able to jump in on something? Just city planner came up, and that's an important piece.
It wasn't
First of all, you mentioned two of the candidates up here, even though not by name, so Christian does get a rebuttal to your answer. Samantha was after you, so she could have answered in that. So Christian, you could rebut what he had said in his answer to his question.
I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just a lot of misinformation that Mr. Hogan said. So
That's fine.
yeah, I don't know where to begin with that.
Okay,
but,
all
yeah.
right. Honestly, I would say you would have this chance when we go into the next round where you could ask your question to each one of the candidates. Okay, so I think we have
Yes.
one more question.
So, as you know, as a mayor, you serve as the chair of the school committee. What would you do to further improve school rankings and the educational experience citywide? What would you do?
We'll start with you, Christian.
And this order is all out of
It's-
whack.
well, I'm just going with it,
No, it's
yeah.
okay.
Keep you on your toes.
No, I don't mind. So I'm a proud product of Marlborough Public Schools, like I mentioned, we all are. I've met with the superintendent and the school committee, as well as the paras and the behavior techs, and they all agree that there's a few key focuses that the chair will need to focus on, and that's overcrowding to begin with. And then we have to increase our support staff, and that means we need to the pay structure needs to change. We're losing a lot of valuable support staff regarding paras and behavior techs, which is not easy for the teachers that are actually in the classrooms because they're not getting the adequate support. And also we need to prioritize discipline and accountability. To expand on that, we all need to be on the same page regarding that discipline and accountability, from administration all the way down to the students, and that includes teachers as well. So Richard School was in the process of actually being redeveloped or renovated. That's why we have the Goodnow Brothers schools. They're actually going to do that again, and that will come in February. So we need to think of creative ways from now until then to put those schools in a location so they're not overcrowded. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick?
I won't take up too much time with this one. The MCAS scores just came out. I don't know if you had seen them, but they're a disaster. And I think changes need to be made quickly, and from the top down, everything needs to be looked at. The teachers are doing a great job with what they got. They're having a real tough time. They're not getting the support they need from administration, and with those scores coming out this morning, I think that's a huge problem for the city of Marlborough, and that needs to be the focus. The administration from the top down, we need to look at that in a hard way and make some changes.
Samantha?
I've spoken with our superintendent, members of our school committee, the head of the teachers union, to really understand the issues firsthand. As was mentioned, many of us, including myself, are a product of the Marlborough public school system, and I would not be before you as a public servant without the great teachers and mentors in my life here throughout the city. A lot of the issues are really around the building capacity in our space. You know, the Goodnow Brothers Elementary School was already at capacity before it was completed, right? So those crowding in the school district is of a huge concern. So whether it's exploring other building spaces, the richer school improvement that's moving forward with state funding is really important. And also the retention of our teachers. It was wonderful to be at the the opening day of this school year and see how many service awards were given to teachers who've been here for 30, 40, even 45 years of service. And we want to continue that trend of being a place where people can build a career and work for our students. Things around our mental health and social emotional learning are incredibly important. And I think having presence, I do a lot of work with young people, both as a city councilor and as a candidate for mayor, and have been the only one with a background in education, having passed the civics bill, which requires all schools to teach civics in their classrooms.
Thank you. And Michael?
Overcrowding is definitely an issue. As Samantha said, Goodenough's already at capacity. Well, when all these grade schools come together at middle school, what are we going to do with them? Where's the space? And then they go up to high school, and there's no shop classes in high school anymore. Not at Marlborough High. Not everyone goes to college. People need to start learning a trade. Assabet only takes 250, and it's a lottery now. We need to start thinking now about a new high school. It's going to take 4 to 5 years, and we have to change the perception out there that people want to get their kids out of Marlborough Public Schools. I had a great experience at Marlborough Public Schools. My daughter is having a great experience at Whitcomb, but the negative now in the social media age is what we hear. We don't hear the positive. There's a lot of great that's coming out of Marlborough Public Schools right now.
Thank you. Okay, we have done 3 questions.
I think we have a few more. Yes, please.
Okay, so going back to our city's growth, how do you plan to ensure city departments are staffed appropriately and the city employees have opportunities to live here?
Michael, we'll start with you.
I think we got to take care of our own and get pride back in the city. I mean, it's crazy to me that like a DPW worker would work here and not live here. This is the city they take care of, a police officer. We have police officers here that maybe can't afford to live here. We need to get, certainly for public safety, we need police and firemen up to an acceptable level. We're losing police officers to cities like Hudson, Sherborne, because simply that they're not paying enough. So we need to get our pay scales up to a level like the surrounding cities. Hudson, Northborough. Let's get them up to that level, and I think we'll keep people here.
Thank you. Christian?
Thank you. And our salaries, again, across the board need to be increased. Christine Purple, the HR director, who is no longer with us, that was going to be her initiative when she first started. She is no longer with us, so as mayor, that would be my first, on day one, to go through the salary and see where we are at. Meeting with the patrol of the Marlborough Police, I know that they are paid $10,000 less than Hudson alone. That's a huge issue. Our DPW is short-staffed because we can't recruit based upon salaries. Our pages at the library were getting paid $10 an hour until up to like this year, which is below the minimum wage. We need to focus on salaries to recruit the proper people who want to work and invest here, and that will happen on day one. It's been part of my initiative, and it needs to happen. Competitive pay is extremely important because you want to have a sense of pride. I believe living in Marlborough, you should have that pride, and we should pay accordingly for that.
Thank you. Patrick?
Well, just to address a couple of the points that were wrong, Northborough and Hudson do not make more than Marlborough, and the $10,000 number, I don't know where that came from, but that's not accurate. Some of the people who went to Hudson went for different reasons other than money. A lot of our guys, the new guys, get paid with stipends instead of percentages like the old timers, and that creates a problem. It creates a 2-tier pay system. A lot of people don't want to come to Marlborough and work under a 2-tiered system. It's worth substantially less money. The fire department's in the same boat. A lot of this ties back to when we were under 2 mayors ago, when we took a 0 and we have really bad times, and we had to take a 0 to help the city out, and they were claiming we were going to get back to regular pay raises, and since then we've climbed very, very slowly. We haven't kept up with inflation. We've actually lose money with the health insurance premiums going up. So to fix that, we're going to be contracts are expiring. We're going to be renegotiating starting January with all the city unions, and we're going to have to fix that in those contracts, we'll be able to do that right away.
Thank you. And Samantha?
We certainly need better data to reflect why people are wanting to work in the city of Marlborough and why they might be leaving. The retention of our current employees through competitive salary packages and benefits is really important, certainly for folks who are coming in, folks with degrees, making sure that they're being compensated appropriately. The staffing has been a concern, not just in the city of Marlborough, but elsewhere because of the pandemic and the rigor of those jobs. I mean, we're really grateful for the public servants who've done so much work on the ground. So I think it has to be the pay structure and really asking people. I've been fortunate to speak with many of the unions directly just to listen to their concerns and understand. And many of those individuals, even people that I grew up with here in this community, have not been able to stay here. So the diverse housing stock is incredibly important, being able to have those comprehensive salary packages, and certainly making sure that there is upward mobility. And I think it's the mayor's responsibility to be able to set the tone, to say we want you to stay here, we want you to work here, and that you have a future of growth here in the city of Marlborough.
Thank you.
Okay. Next question will be, has your campaign accepted donations from outside the city of Marlborough, and if so, why?
Let's start with Samantha.
Thank you. Yes, I've been fortunate to have people in my personal network who've been really motivated that I'm choosing to serve my community in this capacity. So I have accepted donations from people in my network and people around the state who are really invested in seeing Marlborough, which really is the pearl of the entire state. Marlborough is a place where many people want to see a strong administration, a leader, and I'm proud to have many people who have invested in me. I'm also proud of the amount of Marlborough residents who have donated, might have never given to a political candidate, and it's unfortunate that we even have to collect donations, but certainly need the resources to reach people across the city. So I'm grateful for the small dollar amounts that people have been able to give, and really to feel invested, because this campaign isn't about me, it's really about the community, and so their investment is really important.
Thank you. Patrick?
Interesting choice to come back right back to me. I would check OCPF and just look for yourself to see who's making donations to who. I think she's a little disingenuous with characterizing it as outside Marlborough. It's Chicago, D.C., California. There's a guy from Takeda Pharmaceuticals sent $1,000. I mean, all my people who donate to me, I could call them on the phone. I know who they are. They know me. If I happen to have someone out of state, it's a friend of mine who used to live in Marlborough, or it's a family member. There's nobody donating to me from Emerge or Act Blue or any of these big national groups, and that can't be said of my opponents.
Do I get to?
Yes.
Thank you. So people who have contributed to me do know me personally, and I'm fortunate to be the one most forthcoming with information on OCPF. I list everyone's employer and the name of their occupation, which is over the requirement for OCPF. And I want to have transparency in the information of who's giving to me. I'm fortunate that folks are invested, and certainly I've done internships and legal work in different places. I went to university in Georgia, so folks are people that I know personally, and I'm grateful for their continued support and investment in me as a leader. Thank you.
Do I get to rebut that or no?
No.
I would just say look for yourself.
Yes.
Christian?
I have friends and family all across the nation and in New England, and in full transparency, I was endorsed. I did not announce this on the campaign because I do not think it's a big deal. I was endorsed by the Victory Fund, which endorses LGBTQ candidates. It's who I am. I have no agenda when it comes to the gay movement. It's just, and so because of the Victory Fund, people want to endorse a candidate who has like-minded and have that representation that matters. I think that's important when you're not only in the municipal level but government as well. So you have a voice for someone. At the salon, I had a fifth grader who came out to me last year. I think that's important. I think that matters. In no way, shape, or form does it reflect any agenda, but every support matters, and so does representation, and that's why I have contributions in various cities.
Thank you. Michael?
My donors are, as few as there are like me. They don't have a lot of money to donate to political campaigns. If they're giving money to St. Jude's, cancer research. To donate to somebody's political campaign isn't on their radar. It's not what they're thinking of. I appreciate every dollar I've ever earned. My three opponents have far outgained me. But in the end, it's not going to be about how much money you raised. we're going to change things. It's going to be about the person and the people of Marlborough. It's not about who gave 1,000 here or any corporations. It's going to be about the people.
Thank you.
All right. So there is some opioid settlement money coming into the city. Would you support harm reduction measures such as having Narcan available in all public establishments, including the schools?
I'm going to start with Patrick.
To be honest, I'm surprised that that doesn't happen already. I know Narcan is free from CVS. If that's not happening already, that's surprising to me, and it should be happening. Any place we can have Narcan readily available for when an emergency takes place is always a good idea, and I would support that absolutely.
Samantha?
I would also support that. I was fortunate to attend the vigil that we held here in Marlborough for the overdose awareness, and it was certainly really moving to hear the stories of people who've lost loved ones, and having something like Narcan, which is life-saving. I've been fortunate to be trained myself. There was a training here in the city that it is really necessary. I mean, it is a crisis and an epidemic, and we certainly have seen so many community members, go through these challenges, and it's the city's responsibility to do so. We're fortunate at the city level. We put aside money for a substance abuse coordinator. We've been trying to fill the position. Unfortunately, the one who was going to fill the position was no longer able to continue onward, and having a staff person who can really do that outreach, education, work with the schools, work with the different nonprofits is really important, and make sure that we're addressing it here at the city level.
Michael, we'll move to you.
I would absolutely support that, and we definitely need to do more on the city level. 7-Eleven, about a month ago, a young lady lost her sister right in the bathroom, and she put it out on Facebook she asked all the mayoral candidates a question, and I mean, heartbreaking. And it's going to continue unless we can do something to change that.
I absolutely support it. I met with Cheryl Jouer. It's her passion of hers. She's been down to DC to advocate for this. And we also have a substance abuse counselor that the city council approved. The pay structure, I don't think, is where it should be. I think that's why we're having trouble filling that position. I don't think one person is enough. I was advocating for a 2-year kind of review of that position, only to expand that. A lot of my counselors disagreed with that. I think there needs to be more outreach when it comes to substance abuse, whether it's in the schools and across the board. But Narcan is absolutely, definitely needed throughout and be easily accessible.
All right. Thank you.
As mayor, you oversee the Community Development Authority. What improvements would you suggest?
Christian, we'll start with you.
I feel like I'm starting a lot. Is that just me?
Do a favor.
Going
No,
up and down the table here, listen. Don't look at me.
No, it's, the CDA is a great resource. We just received grant money. I was down at Gardner talking to Ms. Driscoll, the Lieutenant Governor, and it also affects senior housing as well, which is extremely important. We need to figure out how to create more senior housing, and that needs to encapsulate more parcels of land and start being creative and utilizing that land. Like I mentioned before, I think that IC would be a great location for senior housing, or look at Hildreth School. It's easily accessible. But also we need to focus on transportation regarding the CDA, just because there's a lack of transportation, and figure out their bus routes and so they have access to transportation in that regards. But it's a great resource, and I look forward to working with them when elected.
Thank you. Michael?
The West Side Fire Station, if we can get that plan moving, we'll have that fire station up on Pleasant Street. We can utilize, as Christian said, some of these buildings. There's a homelessness problem that's happening now. There are no female-only homeless shelters. There's male-only, and there's homeless shelters. There's no female-only. I don't know if, as a female, if I would feel comfortable going into one of these shelters. I've obviously never been in one, but why not take the old fire station that has showers, stoves, has the amenities, and make that a female-only homeless shelter. The opioid crisis, let's get some rehabilitation centers going. We need senior housing, but we also need to take care of the young people, because young people are unfortunately dying from overdoses, and if we can help them out, I think that would really help the city.
Thank you. Samantha?
I would echo the sentiments about transportation access, housing across the entire community, and really listening to the concerns of the other members to really understand what some of the priorities are. I think throughout the city, things around the CDA, I think, are not as known to the public, so I think education about what it does and how it is moving forward would be really pivotal. And certainly as the mayor, it's important that we bring those conversations into other issue areas across the city.
Thank you. And Patrick?
As the chair of the CDA, I would move for partnerships with the MEDC and the Metro West Community Development to identify sites we could actually use. Basically what Christian was saying about the IC school, and I would think the Sears at the mall is another one waiting for a zoning change. But like there are sites waiting to be developed, and I think CDA partnering with MEDC and Metro West Community Development, we can get some of these things done.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next question. There's always a balance between taxes and services. We all know that. What is your philosophy for managing this balance?
Samantha, do you want to take this?
Sure. So certainly as a member of the Finance Committee, we have seen this come front and center, right? Every year, unfortunately, it's more expensive to do things in our budget, and we want to make sure we provide the adequate services. We're fortunate to have the recycling and trash pickup that we do, and to have access to our transfer station and all of these things that are part of our tax dollars. I think it's really important that we are adamant about pursuing a low residential tax rate. As was mentioned, having that strong business and commercial industrial tax base is really important for keeping the residential rate low. So I think it is a matter of always trying to make sure we provide the most services and really see how we're spending our budget priorities each year. What are the ways that we can aggressively pursue state and federal grant funding? We've been able to do some of that with the senior center and be able to reduce some of those costs in the budget. And I look forward to making sure it is a lean budget so that we keep the residential tax rate low moving forward.
Thank you. Patrick?
I would say we need to continue to bring in business development. We need to stop being obstructionist on the council and be business friendly, get more business in here so we can continue to have our tax rate up and keep our property tax on residents low.
Okay. Thank you. Christian?
Thank you. So being on the city council for the last 6 years, and over the last 6 years, I voted to keep the lowest tax rate in the area. Having said that, we need to focus on economic development. There's a split tax system where the business tax is higher than the residential tax. And like I said earlier, I think we hit our max when it comes to large-scale apartment complexes, and that's where we're getting the most money for taxes. But if we focus on companies like Boston Scientific or Moderna, Hologic, all the big corporations, that it's a higher tax rate and it's concentrated growth, and that's what we need to focus on so we can actually provide those services that we desperately need for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's keep the property tax rate low. That's why we have all these businesses that have come in. The Chick-fil-A's and the Apex Center and the approval of all these apartments being built. As residents, we're told, you know, you bring in the businesses, that's how you keep your tax rate low. So let's continue to bring in the businesses. Let's get Main Street up to par, and I think we can keep the tax rate low.
May I respond to the council comment that was made?
Sure.
Thank you. I want to speak to the fact that the council has been really working hand in hand with the MEDC and the mayor's office to pursue economic growth and business development here in the city, and it is the responsibility of the mayor to really pursue that, be the sound piece and voice of the city to show how much business has a role here in the city. We know we've seen it with all of the new businesses that were mentioned and all of the headquarters. People want to come to the city of Marlborough, and so the council has been supporting that vision, and I would look forward to doing so as mayor.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Some of you already spoke a little bit about transportation and its challenges. So understanding Boston has their own transportation issues, and that expanding into the suburban areas is a few years away at best, what alternative transportation options would you advocate for?
Michael, do you want to start with this?
Sure, I'll start with this. we're not Boston. I mean, we have a certain level that we can do. I mean, we just had the question about taxes. If you want to increase the transportation, then your taxes are going to go up. What can we do? What are our options? More buses? We've seen the vans. Certainly, I think what we need to really concentrate is on our seniors and making sure there's senior housing everywhere, and they all have to get to the senior center. And if there's only one bus going around, then I've talked to seniors up at Christopher Heights that can't get down to the senior center because they missed the bus, and there's only one bus. Let's get another bus for the seniors and take care of them.
Samantha?
Marlborough really needs to play and see this as a regional issue. The MWRTA regional transit needs to be invested in. Because we are an MBTA adjacent community, right, we do not have rail access here in the city of Marlborough, so the bus routes are really important. I personally am a huge public transit advocate, used to work in downtown Boston and take the commuter rail every day, and so I experienced those challenges of that last mile connection. We're fortunate to be funding a free shuttle here in the city of Marlborough with MEDC and our state partners that does that last mile connection for our businesses to the Southborough commuter rail. I took that myself to experience it firsthand for several months when I was working downtown, and there were challenges. We need to increase the hours and really know what the demands are. MWRTA has worked with Hudson on some of the micro transit opportunities where people can have on-demand transit at a low rate, and we need to invest in that more and more because the routes and patterns and when people work are not the same, and we really need to have the data behind it to know where the demand is.
Patrick?
I agree with the MEDC bus, that the shuttles down to Southborough is that pretty much during the day it does nothing. So they go in the morning and they go in the afternoon, and it sits there doing nothing in the middle of the day. I think some of the mitigation funds for some of the new apartment buildings would be a good idea to use to maybe force them to offer a bus to their residents.
Christian?
Thank you. I had the privilege and the honor of actually touring the Metro West Regional Transit Authority to express my concerns regarding transportation. They were open and they're willing to come to Marlborough on a larger scale. We talked about different locations regarding bus stops. They're open to the idea of moving them to different locations that better fit and need the city of Marlborough. They're excited to come on board, just as much as I'm excited to have them. They also have a program when it comes to a dial-a-ride program where any senior can actually contact 2 days in advance to have medical appointments throughout the Commonwealth, which I think is a huge asset. I look forward to implementing that plan and working with the MWRTA to actually have a formalized plan and an actual bus route that is beneficial to the city, not only downtown, but for our seniors as well.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think we're going to move on to the second round now. And this is when each one of you get to pick a candidate and ask a question. Again, you'll get a minute to answer and 30 seconds for a rebuttal. So, why don't we start? I'm going to start at the beginning. We'll go alphabetically. Okay.
Thank you.
Michael, you can ask.
I would ask Patrick, you mentioned earlier that you were head of the union for the police patrolmen, and now you're going to be negotiating on the other side with their new contract in January. Is that a conflict of interest at all?
Well, I'll be the mayor, so I'll no longer be a police officer, so it won't be a conflict of interest. It'll just give me an intimate understanding of negotiations, of what's needed, and how we can get it done. And obviously, we're not going to be irresponsible, but I think it gives me an advantage as a negotiator, sitting in and knowing what it's going to take to get that done and get it done fairly.
Okay. Christian?
Sure. I will ask Patrick as well. I had the opportunity
Tonight.
Yeah, right. I had the opportunity to work on 6 of the last city budgets as a city councilor. The budget will always be one of the mayor's most important responsibilities. Can you share what the average free cash figure has been over the past 3 fiscal years? And how would you use it differently other than the mayor has over the same time period?
So this is a gotcha question. It's something that I'm probably not going to have written down. I mean, we both have notes. So, yeah, I don't have the total for the last 3 years of free cash. I mean, I don't know if that's important for the future of Marlborough tonight, but I was here to discuss questions and ideas of how we thought things were going to move forward, but if we want to do gotcha questions and gutter politics, I mean, I can do that too.
May I rebuttal?
May.
It's based on the standard budgeting practices that we use for the last 3 fiscal years. It's right in our policies and procedures, and it's around $11 million. But we also need to realize that free cash, 20% out of the top for the OPEB and stabilization, snow and ice, as well as mid-year transfers. This is knowledge that should be instilled in the next mayor, because you have to be responsible for a $200 million budget, and you need to know what the financial budget practices are in order to actually work with the budget and where that money is going. Thank you.
Thank you.
I understand that, and that makes sense. I just don't think voters watching tonight really care about stuff like that. There's other issues that we're interested in that people want to know our ideas. If we're going to start getting into the weeds with numbers and gotcha questions, and we can both do that all night.
I would hope that people watching would be concerned about a $200 million budget. But-
All right, thank you. Patrick, you get to ask a question.
Well, actually, I wasn't going to ask this question, but it came up on, I had a flyer today from Christian touting his time on the committee for, let me see exactly, Marlborough West Side Fire Station Committee member. From what I understand, you were the only counselor on that committee. You were tasked with shepherding that through and getting that done, and you failed, and you're touting one of your biggest failures somehow as on your flyer. So I want to know, why didn't that happen, and what can you do as mayor that you couldn't get done as counselor?
That's a great question. So being on a subcommittee fire station for 2 years, we created a report and we passed it on to the mayor. During that time, the mayor sat on it for quite some time, and in an interim, we passed $7 million to allocate for the police station to get the project done. We created a West Side Fire Station that I spearheaded to get the funds appropriately in the right account, so the mayor or future mayors cannot spend that money on other things for free cash, so it's tied up there for the West Side Fire Station. And it's now the mayor's turn. The mayor's responsibility is to negotiate contracts. We as city councilors have no power to negotiate contracts or purchase land. What we can do is approve the mayor to allocate or to fight for that land to purchase, but as a city councilor, my hands are tied and it falls on the mayor, which is why I'm running to be the next mayor, so we actually can get a West Side Fire Station through.
Thank you.
Okay, do
Samantha?
I have to answer that?
Okay.
Well, so the easy answer is to blame somebody who's not here tonight. You can't just blame the mayor. The fact is, it failed, and you were the one, it was your job to get it through, and you failed.
Samantha?
Thank you. My question is for my city council colleague, Christian. I'm very invested personally in regional efforts and innovation, working with our state and federal partners, and have been active in the Mass Municipal Association. What has your past experience been interacting with our state and federal leaders and playing a regional role with some of the issues that are beyond Marlborough's borders?
Sure, I have a great relationship with our state reps as well. I never wanted to be a politician, and here we are today. I'm more of a public servant. I focus more on the local level. I care about the constituents' concerns at the end of the day, and focusing on that is more of a priority. I plan on working with, as the political process in campaigning, I've met numerous people, such as Lieutenant Governor and the Governor, and I will have a great working relationship with them, and actually having people in my campaign who actually is very well connected with the political process and has been introducing me across the board when it comes to state reps throughout the Commonwealth, and I'm excited to work with them and allocate for Marlborough and fight for Marlborough regarding grants, and have that great working relationship.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think we have a few more questions. I gave you a little bit. Everyone take it.
All right, so the current administration has done a great job in terms of securing a AAA rating for the city of Marlborough here, and our finances are in good standing. How would you maintain that level of confidence in city finance?
Patrick?
Well, I think Arthur's done a great job. I would just emulate what he's been doing, and I try to keep that ball rolling. That's why I'm running. I think he's done a good job. I didn't see anybody running that I felt could continue what he was doing, grab the ball and run with it, and that is my plan.
Christian?
Arthur has a great legacy when it comes to that, and he is a small business owner. He knows firsthand how to do that. And as a business owner, I will continue that mentality and focus on the budget. They go hand in hand, working a budget, being fiscally conservative, knowing where the bottom line comes to and how to utilize the bottom line effectively and create creative budget plans. That's what a small business owner does every day. And I can't wait to take those skills to the fourth floor and to do that.
Michael?
Certainly Arthur has done a fantastic job in that regard, but times are changing, and they are changing quick. I don't think that we need to continue on the same exact path. You need to adapt or die. So I think while he did such a great job, let's try and improve on that, and let's, make sure we have all the people in place that can do that.
Okay, Samantha.
We appreciate the hard work of our current mayor to maintain that really incredible bond rating. Certainly the partnership as mayor with the city council is a huge priority for me, working in tandem to make sure that we keep that bond rating, working with a strong finance team in our city hall and making sure that we are really tracking what the commercial and industrial growth is in the city, what the tax rate is for the residences. All of this comes into play so we can borrow at that low rate. So I think it's really monitoring it and continuing the productive business and industrial growth that really allows us to keep that tax rate low and for us to borrow at a lower amount.
All right, thank you. I kind of changed the format there a little bit because I thought the questions when you were asking each other were starting to get a little there. So now we're going to go back to you asking each other questions. So you asked one candidate, so now you get a chance to ask a different candidate. So I wanted to just change things up a little bit. We're going to go with, let's see, Samantha. Ask someone, ask one of the other candidates.
Certainly. So my question is for Patrick. I'm curious, given, and I think we've all been experiencing it, the climate crisis that we're having with the increased flooding, the heat issues, all of the kind of really freak storms that we're having. What is your plan for a climate perspective to make sure that Marlborough is resilient as we move forward?
Well, I think obviously when it comes to downtown, with the senior center that gets flooded out all the time, we're going to have to do some kind of mitigation for floodwaters. I don't think we can stop the rain from coming, but I think Farm Road gets flooded out on a regular basis. That's been on the list for 7 years to get done, and it hasn't been done yet. So there's plans in the works for us to kind of try to keep up with the climate crisis, but as far as what a mayor's going to do to stop the climate from coming, I mean, there's nothing we can do here other than react to what's happening. And I plan to react with the DPW and get those projects done, and we can move on from there. As far as like climate change and stuff, we can do the solar panels, and we do the electric cars already. The police has all hybrids, so I think we're moving in the right direction.
May I respond?
You may.
So one of the really important things with climate change is to be proactive, right? We can't stop what's going on at a national or state level, but we can do our part here locally. Something I'm proposing is a tree canopy ordinance. Certainly there are so many hotspots in environmental justice neighborhoods across the city, so making sure that we are protecting even private trees on properties to really mitigate the temperature increases, which are influencing and changing the patterns for our seniors and our young people. And certainly we have been going through a process of grant money that we received to update our building code so that they are more climate resilient. So investment in our infrastructure is really important, so we make sure that our new buildings that come online are in line with the state code.
Thank you. Michael, asking us a question.
Let's have a little levity. Christian, what are you most proud of that you've accomplished as a city councilor for the people of Marlborough?
I think just listening to the residents, to be honest with you, that's why I got involved as a city councilor. I don't think that I was being heard on the local level with Ward 3. The Apex was a huge issue when it comes to Ward 3, as well as the West Side Fire Station. I think Apex was too large, and working with developers to tone things down and to actually find the right parcels of land that actually make sense for growth. But the smallest proud moment that I have is when I can honestly is to get a pothole fixed, or those small little inconveniences that that are affected day to day that the constituents have, and at the mayor level that will continue. We need to continue continue to respond and be accessible when it comes to the mayor. And that's why with constituent services that I plan to roll out, the government's going to come to you as opposed to you come to government. And I think that's extremely important, and I will carry that on as mayor.
Thank you. And Christian, you can ask your next question.
Let's do another one for you, yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Baker, we recently took a picture together while attending the food truck festival. I have to say I wasn't very happy about it because you know how to work the camera. So, having said that, I know the question came up earlier, why now? Why run to be mayor? Why not a city councilor? Why not a board and commissioner? Why not something different other than being mayor?
Because I think as mayor, I can reach more people. As I said, I think we have 10% of people that come out as registered voters for a mayoral primary. Why aren't the other 90% voting? Let's get a person like me, who is one of them, out as a candidate. I could be their voice, and I think as mayor, I can get the most done.
All right, thank you. Patrick?
I'll ask Samantha a question. This goes to your tree canopy idea. I'm assuming that's a mandate with fees and fines. So I noticed that you had voted to double and quadruple fines for trash disposal, plumbing, multifamily housing. I mean, increasing city fees can be tough for the elderly and those on a limited income. And when the fee to apply for a permit becomes too high, folks don't get the inspection. This leads to substandard work, which becomes a safety issue for everybody involved. So doubling fees on multifamily dwellings as well. I mean, the owners pass along that cost on the rent to recoup their money. I was wondering, what's your motivation for spearheading the increasing of all these fees?
So I believe you might be speaking about something that came before the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee, which I chair. A lot of our fees have not been in line with what the services are, and certainly to keep the low tax dollar amount, we have to be able to keep in line with that. And certainly things like the tree canopy ordinance is not something that would be additional fees. There's actually aggressive amount of grant money to do climate resiliency in communities, and a lot of it is actually providing the education and support for private homeowners so that they do maintain their trees on their property, which are protecting and reducing the heat and the urban heat island effect that happens across this entire city. I actually live in an environmental justice neighborhood and Ward 4 Precinct 1 that does have a lot of tree canopy loss, and certainly those urban core areas, we need to make sure that residents have what they need so that they can be climate resilient.
So is a tree canopy a mandate?
It is not a mandate, no.
All right, thank you. Christian, you can start with your last question to your last
Oh,
candidate.
can I ask my question as well?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. My question is also for Michael Baker. I've certainly been really excited to see you at the city council meetings. What are one of the issue areas that you've been involved with as a constituent in speaking at a public hearing?
I think, well, the Armory project. I think, initially I was against any new apartments, especially on Lincoln Street with the traffic the way it is. Going to the city council meetings, seeing these projects come to life. Yes, there's going to be traffic, but look at these eyesores that we've all been looking at for 30 years. They're going to be beautiful new buildings. Having said that, I think we need to, like I said before, slow it down. Let's keep what we have now and then slow it down.
Okay. Christian?
I think my last question goes to you, Councilor Perlman. I think many voters, as well as I, are concerned about your very limited job history, life experience, and that you currently are a full-time student. What do you have to say to voters of Marlborough who are concerned you do not have the experience to manage a $200 million budget, negotiate with 15 unions, and lead with 1,500 employees?
I'm really proud of the nonprofit experience that I've had working at local, state, and federal level, and certainly I'm proud to be finishing out a law degree that I will be finishing in the next couple of months, and I think that's a really unique experience that I bring to the table, as well as the urban planning and environmental policy information. Certainly having a wide range of educational background and being the only one here who's been elected citywide, I really understand the issues that are happening across the community. Been doing the hard work with our city staff to understand so I can move forward on day one, and certainly things around our budget, having been a member of the finance committee, being involved with our veterans Governance Committee, as well as chairing the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee. All of these experiences are really unique and something that I bring to the table. And certainly with the changes in the demographics here in the city of Marlborough, I really represent a bridge between folks who have recently come into the city, new families, young families, and people who've grown up here for generations since I grew up here as well. And I think I offer a really great connection for a multitude of residents across our city.
Okay.
Can I rebuttal?
Rebuttal? Go
Thank
ahead.
you. The future of Marlborough is at stake with this election. We have a AAA bond rating. It's the best that you can have and the lowest tax rate in the region. As a voter myself and knowing what it will take to be mayor, I'm concerned by your lack of life experience. I've been a small business owner for 13 years and a city councilor for 6. That knowledge and experience makes me the only candidate who will keep Marlborough in that strong position. Thank you.
Rebuttal?
I can respond as well. Certainly serving as a citywide councilor for the past 4 years and being the top vote recipient, I have been learning and listening to residents and knowing the issues. I'm one of the most accessible and communicative city councilors, and many people contact me because they've had challenges interacting with other folks. So certainly I think that that's important because I am just one person and certainly the CEO, but to be the mayor, you have to be able to really bring people together, build coalitions, work with our state and federal leaders. All of that experience, whether it's nonprofit work, legal work, urban planning, all of these pieces come together at the local level, and certainly having that regional approach and engaging those monetary resources from the state and federal government are pivotal, and that's the role of the mayor.
Okay. Patrick, your question for one of the candidates.
It could go to either one, but I'll just ask it of Samantha. This week, the city lost out on a $179,000 discount on communications equipment that the mayor, the fire, and the police department said we badly need. A little context, the police and fire radios don't work, so we've been switching back and forth between channels. They go down, and it's a danger for us, it's a danger for the residents. It's imperative that we get this stuff done. The mayor wanted to buy it with free cash. We would have got a $179,000 discount with that free cash, and both my opponents here decided not to do that, and they wanted to bond it, push it out, which is going to push it out months, and we need the radios now, like today. And so every day that goes by is more dangerous for the citizens of Marlborough. Can you explain why you voted not to make that purchase?
Samantha first.
Fortunate to have heard from folks in police and fire about the challenges that you're speaking to, and certainly we need the equipment and the materials directly into our city staff who are risking their lives, and we're very grateful for that. Certainly, as was discussed before, the benefit of free cash is having those reserves of resources and being a sound financial steward. As the mayor and CEO, we would be basically depleting our entire resources at the beginning of the fiscal year, only 2 weeks after the certification of free cash. So it's very important that we have those resources. We've even seen, right, 2020 with the pandemic, life throws a lot of different hurdles, and it's certainly important that the mayor has that strong fiscal and predictability, and we're grateful that we're able to move forward in the next few weeks, and we had to have the advertising period. So we look forward to voting for the bond in the upcoming city council meeting.
Christian, rebuttal?
This is a fantastic question. I'm glad that it came up. You're actually incorrect. I voted against the bond. And the reason why I voted against the bond was because I wanted to use partial free cash. During the Finance Committee meeting, I expressed that concern. I wanted to continue the discount of the almost $200,000. And if we allocated $1 million to free cash and bonded less money, I think that would have worked both. It's those creative solutions that we need at the mayor level. So now instead of bonding $5 million, would only be bonding $4 million. And that means that it'll be less on the back end regarding the interest rate. So you have to think logistically, and I'm actually out of time.
Thank
But
you.
I voted against it only because
Can I rebut
we need
that?
more free cash.
You can rebuttal.
That's fine, and it doesn't really get radios in the hands of the guys that need them any faster. The reality is, there's people out there putting their lives in harm, and their lives on the line, their bodies in harm's way, and every resident in the city is also in harm's way. If we have a radio that doesn't work, it doesn't matter if you guys are bonding it, it doesn't matter if you think it's smart fiscally. You tell that to the person that's laying in the woods that needs the police or needs the fire department, what that fiscal responsibility means to them.
And if I could
May I
rebuttal, just,
respond to that?
if we did it all the way that I wanted, we would have been able to get the radios faster, and that's why I voted against the bond. Plain and simple.
Real quick, 15 seconds.
I would also just share the proactive nature. That should have come to the council much earlier, and certainly being able to, have their life on the line. I mean, certainly we really do appreciate the nimbleness. I know the police and fire chief were both there in person and reassured us that they are strategizing in real time to make sure that there is no loss in service or coverage.
Thank you.
Well, that's
Mike?
not the case. I just know that's not the case.
Michael, you get to ask the last question.
Nice.
Who would you like?
Samantha, I guess. The Progressives of Metro West questionnaire that you filled out, you answered yes to, will you support police accountability? Can you just talk a little more on what that means to you?
Certainly. So I think it was a broader question around supporting, social justice in our community, and I've been really fortunate to work with our police chief and our fire chief and our public safety officials, and to speak to all of the unions. And a lot of the concerns that I've been hearing coming up are around the staffing and the pay salary. And I think it's just making sure that we have the resources on the line to make sure that those folks are able to carry out the responsibilities of their jobs. And I look forward to working with them, negotiating the contracts, and moving forward for this administration.
Can I chime in as a police officer? I mean, it's kind of relative to what I do. We haven't heard from any of these people at this table until there was an election. So for what that's worth, no one cared what's happening down at the police station or the fire station until somebody's up for election.
I would disagree with that. I meet with Georgie, the chief, all the time, so.
Yes, I'd say we've also been very engaged.
And administrator is much different than meeting with the boots on the ground. That's a get a whole different ballgame.
All right.
I've spoken to officers.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if anybody cares.
Thank you. This is going to conclude round two. I'm going to have them ask one more question, and then we're going to have you go into your closing comments. Okay, who wants to ask that last question?
Okay. So, because you already spoke about something that was here to be asked, I would like to ask you the following. Since in January, we will have pretty much a new city council, right, with new faces and new people, and a new mayor. Being the mayor and understanding the importance of the relationship and the dynamics between the mayor and the city council, how do you think you should approach that relationship to make it productive?
I'm going to start with Michael, since he's been kind of standing, sitting here. Okay, let's start with you. We're going to go right down the road.
I think that's an excellent question. I think by building you need to build relationships, you need to get to know people. So I've gone to city council meetings. I've met Samantha, I've met Christian. It's important to know the people that you're working with, and that's building relationships.
Okay. Christian?
Thank you. My business is all about cultivating relationships and building that trust with the clientele so they can keep coming back. It's one of my passions is to cultivate relationships and to get to know someone on a personal level. I strongly believe that just because we disagree doesn't mean that we cannot have a drink afterwards. I will continue that when elected. I have met with all the current councilors that are not on the city council as well that are running. It's important to have that exchange and that dialogue, and I will continue to do that. I think I have a great rapport with all of the city councilors, and I enjoy working with them. We go out often for drinks, and even with the school committee. As a mayor, you need to work with the school committee. I have a great rapport with them. I've met with them, and I look forward to bridging that gap with city council and school committee as well. We all working together, and I think that's important.
Thank you. Patrick?
For 30 years, I've been building relationships. I know pretty much everybody on the city council. I don't have any problem building a relationship with them, a working relationship. One way or another, we've all kind of worked together in the past. What I would say about how my opponents went about it is that Christian just abandoned his seat, he vacated it without finding a suitable replacement or giving his constituents any kind of a choice. And Samantha has 3 of her people running for city council as well, so it looks like she's trying to set it up to have like a little mini government of her own. So things like that, I don't think sit well with most of the people in Marlborough, and for me, that's not what I'm doing. I'm running because I love Marlborough. I have a good relationship with people on city council, and I would continue that relationship as mayor.
I'm going to have Christian rebuttal before you, and then you, Samantha.
When I decided to run, I sent all of Ward 3 residents a letter saying that I wasn't running. I don't believe that I should handpick someone to run for my seat. I think that should come from within. There's only one candidate. There actually is a write-in candidate who actually has come to me for advice. I welcome that advice. And to that point, Mr. Hogan, you have yet to come to a city council meeting that I know of. So you practice kind of what you preach. I would welcome you to come to the city council. It's a very different environment once you're in the chamber as opposed to watching it online, and I've yet to see that from you. But I think Ward 3 is the most demanding job regarding the wards. And I ran because I wanted to make a difference in my community. I stepped up to the plate, and I think other people should do that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Samantha, you can do the rebuttal to that and then answer the question.
Okay, so my rebuttal would be certainly that as a citywide counselor, I've been able to really engage a wide variety of residents, and the work that we've been able to do in building relationships is so key. And I also represent everyone here in this room and at this table as a city councilor at large. And that means knowing every single issue, and not just in a particular area or from a particular perspective, but knowing the entire city. And those door-knocking experiences where people are sharing their stories with me really have resonated, and that's what I carry forward as a mayoral candidate.
Okay. And then you will get a rebuttal as well, Patrick, at the end.
Yes.
I would just say, to her point, that she represents everybody here. I've sent emails to the city council in reference to very important police matters and never got a response from Christian or Samantha.
Okay.
Like I said, it's an election year. It's the only reason they respond now.
It's actually an internal HR issue that we can't comment on. So.
Okay.
Yes, and can you just repeat the original question? Because now we've had so many rebuttals, I want to make sure I'm...
Can you just repeat the original question?
I think the answer to the original question is about the interaction
last
between
one.
the city council and the mayors, being the city council pretty much all new and a new mayor.
Right.
How to make that relationship work to the benefit of the city.
Well, certainly when I first ran for office, right, it was not an open seat, and I was really feeling not represented as a constituent. I wanted to see people like me in elected office because our city is so diverse and it should be represented in our leadership. I think having the citywide perspective, I've had opportunities to engage with all of the different wards and understand what some of those issues are at a district level, and certainly having those strong relationships and a lot of communication. Currently as a city councilor, sometimes it's hard to get information, and certainly being able to provide that as a mayor is pivotal because these are our partners and we work collaboratively here in the city, and the mayor is not on an island. It is not a hierarchy. We are working together.
Okay, thank you. Deep breath, everyone. So,
Closing.
it's now time for your closing comments, and I said we would go in reverse orders. So,
Wow.
Samantha, you may begin.
I want to thank my co-panelists, the Chamber and WMCT-TV, for the opportunity to share our vision for Marlborough's bright future. Growing up in the community taught me about giving back and set the foundation for public service work that I've done. I worked in the nonprofit sector and passed the state law on civics. But this campaign was never about me. It's about you. To make Marlborough the best place for all of us to live, work, and play, we need to listen to one another and lift one another up, and I pledge to be the mayor who does just that. As your mayor, we'll tackle affordability, making sure that families can raise their children here and seniors on fixed incomes can afford to stay in our city. As mayor, I'll be excited to serve as chair of the school committee. Our hardworking staff and the diversity of our district are tremendous strengths. Together, we will guarantee that every student in our public schools has a comprehensive and enriching education. We will ensure that Marlborough's economy continues to thrive while keeping our residential tax rate low. We'll make our downtown a destination that celebrates our history and imagines our future. Together, we'll invest in infrastructure. I'll prioritize the West Side Fire Station, public safety staffing, as well as long overdue road repairs in every neighborhood. And I will hire a city planner so we are strategic about balancing a city's needs like Marlborough so we grow sustainably. As mayor, I'll be your climate champion. We'll mitigate climate impacts that was mentioned with flooding, tree canopy, and guaranteeing that every neighborhood has easy access to parks. Thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity to serve you as your city councilor. As mayor, I will listen, I will advocate, and I will take action. And together, we will foster a community where all of our residents thrive. My name is Samantha Perlman. I'm one of your city councilors at large, and I humbly ask for your vote for mayor in the preliminary election on Tuesday, October 10th. Thank you.
Patrick?
We'll keep this one short and sweet. This job carries the weight of responsibility. I've been making responsible decisions as a cop for decades. Decisions that impact lives. No other candidate on this panel knows this city better than I do. My opponents, they do not know the weight of responsibility like I do. I've worked 30 years with integrity, discipline, and responsibility. I'm going to bring that with me to City Hall. I am the only clear choice for mayor, and I ask for your vote on October 10th.
Thank you. Christian?
Thank you. My love and passion for Marlborough runs deep. I remember the glow of City Hall from my childhood bedroom on High Street and proudly ringing John Brown Bell at the Union Common. I remember the festival at Ward Park during Labor Day and getting a last cone at Dairy Queen on Halloween. While I too long for the good old days, I have tremendous hope in Marlborough's future. The future is what is at stake at this election. With dozens of roads in disrepair, overcrowding in our schools, a Main Street in need of revitalization, and a West Side fire station to build, Marlborough finds itself at a crossroads. In addition to these issues, the next mayor will be tasked with managing a $200 million budget, leading 1,500 employees, and negotiating with 15 unions. The challenge we face as a city in the upcoming years are too important to be left to someone who does not possess the proper experience. As a small business owner for 13 years and a city councilor for 6, my experience makes me the only candidate ready to lead our city on day one. I am invested in Marlborough. I do not plan on going anywhere. The mayor's position is only a 2-year term. We need a mayor who is committed to the job, not someone who is using this position as a stepping stone or to pad their retirement. Campaigning over the past year has been an incredible journey for me. I've had the honor of talking and listening to thousands of you about our future. My plans in large have been shaped and reshaped as a result of those conversations. This is why on September 28th, my campaign will host a virtual town hall to continue to listen to you and discuss these issues more in depth. This event is just a small example of my commitment I plan to bring when elected to ensure your voice is heard. If you believe that we need to keep an experienced small businessman owner in the mayor's office, then I ask for your vote on Tuesday, October 10th. Thank you.
Michael.
Thank you. I'm going to forgive Patrick for saying he's only got 2 opponents, because I'm here too. And what a time to be in Marlborough. You've got such great choices. Do you want a polished young lady who's got a bright future? You got Samantha, a police officer for over 30 years. Patrick, small business owner, city councilor. Christian. But are the majority of people one of those? Or are they regular people like me? Are you a DPW worker, a janitor, a maintenance worker? We're we the people. The mayor is a representative of you. One of you can be the next mayor of Marlborough. What I'm trying to do is unprecedented. No one just goes, doesn't make money, can't afford to put up a lot of signs, and wins mayor. But I believe that I'm going to get through the primary, and I will be the next mayor of Marlborough because we, the people, demand it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for a great debate. I was proud to be your moderator.
You did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. If we're going to do disclosure, I can say I do know all of you from being a business owner, and I loved your answers to the questions so that as they return to my business, I do not live in Marlborough, so I'm not a voter, so there is no conflict of interest here. So thank you. And Steve, for closing.
So I'd like to say congratulations to all of you, and thank you. You guys have shared a lot of information for the people of Marlborough to consider, and you've done an excellent job this evening. I want to take a moment to thank our panelists for volunteering their time to ask the questions, our timekeeper, Emily, and our moderator, Darlene. Excellent job tonight. Thank you. It's up to the audience now. Those here in the small room here at the education building, education center, as well as those watching on TV. It's time for you to take this information in and be responsible citizens and make sure you vote on October 10th. They've given their time, they've given their effort in campaigning for this position. You have a lot to think about, and I encourage you to just get out and vote because this is an important decision for the city of Marlborough. As the chamber president, I look forward to working with any of you, whoever wins. Our doors will always be open, and we want to build a strong community, certainly from the business side of things, with any of you, whoever gets elected. So again, wish you all the best. And that's it for tonight's debate. Have a great evening, everybody.